The final pages of Book 6 are dedicated to Anchises' description of the future of Rome. The doctrine of reincarnation makes this possible since Anchises can see the souls waiting to return to Earth and live new lives. He's able to point out specific individuals who will play important roles in Roman history. These figures are Aeneas' descendants, and so, at the same time, he's also viewing the glorious future of his own family. In a sense, this account can be seen as a vindication of the many personal sacrifices that Aeneas has had to make along the way. Up until now, he was only acting on the urgings and commands of the gods, but he had no idea of any of the details of the times to come that his actions would lay the foundations for. All he knew was that he was fated to take the Trojan refugees, settle in Italy, and that a great future awaited his people. Now, with the pageant of Roman history that Anchises recounts, Aeneas can see more concretely what all of this will amount to. Virgil gives brief vignettes of key figures in Roman history whom his readers would have been familiar with and would have enjoyed seeing. It's easy to miss this point as a modern reader who needs the use of a modern commentary apparatus, since today these figures are less familiar to us. We must recall that the work was intended to be a national epic for Rome, and thus the account that Virgil gives of these historical figures is intended to connect them with the more mythological material concerning Aeneas and his trials. Thus, the history and the mythology are intended to complement and strengthen each other. It's not surprising that Virgil dedicates the longest and most positive description to his patron, Augustus Caesar. In this regard, it's difficult to overlook the clear ideological and even propagandistic intention of the work. Augustus is hailed as a great hero who extended the borders of the Roman Empire so as to encompass the entire globe. Moreover, his reign promised a return to the Golden Age. An inordinate amount of space is also dedicated to lamenting the premature death of the young Marcus Claudius Marcellus, Augustus's beloved nephew, whom he adopted and made his heir. Marcellus died in 23 BC, only 20 years of age, without ever having the chance to fulfill the great hopes that were made for him. Given its obvious ideological character, this passage of the Aeneid is a clear example of how the Romans of the age liked to think of themselves. Here, Virgil identifies what he takes to be typically Roman values and virtues. He first characterizes other peoples, quote, "Others, I do not doubt it, will beat bronze into figures that breathe more softly. Others will draw living likenesses out of marble. Others will plead cases better or describe with their rod the courses of the stars across the sky and predict their risings." Here he acknowledges that other peoples, perhaps the Greeks, are better than the Romans at things like art or science. But then he turns to the true Roman strengths. Quote, "Your task, Roman, and do not forget it, will be to govern the peoples of the world in your empire. These will be your arts, and to impose a settled pattern upon peace, to pardon the defeated and ward down the proud." So Rome's mission is to rule the peoples of the world. This is a recognition of Rome's great developments in the practical aspects of its empire, which involved its civil administration, its legal system, and not least of all, its military. These things are Rome's great contributions to the world. The reference to a golden age and a period of peace were presumably an expression of a general wish. Rome had suffered many years of civil war before Augustus's assumption of absolute power, and people yearned for an enduring peace under his reign. The last sentence of the quotation seems almost to address Augustus directly and to urge him to show mercy and clemency to the defeated enemies of Rome, while at the same time making shows of sufficient force against the enemies who are proud or defiant.